Well, hello, you gorgeous sack of haunted meat. Today I'm answering the question, what is the best active rest option in between your exercise sets? I love this question because I love active rest and I love a good circuit or a good superset. And that is mostly because I like saving time when it comes to my workout. Now, I exercise for the mental health benefits. I exercise for the physiological benefits. I don't exercise as my primary form of entertainment. So the more effective that I can be with my workouts, the more time I can save and pack it in, the happier I am. And that is how I coach my classes and my students as well. So we make really good use out of active rest and supersets. So let's talk about that a little bit. So active rest, for those of you who don't know, it is the idea is if you're doing an exercise or a workout, you would do multiple sets of the same thing oftentimes, and then you have to wait, you have to rest in between, because depending on how heavy you're lifting, you are not going to be able to just start the next setup right away again. You have to rest for a little while. That gives your liver time to restore the ATP to your muscles so you have the energy to actually move the weight. Okay, so let's say I'm doing a chest press. If I'm going to do a chest press, it's really heavy. Maybe it's like 1 to 5, close to my 1 rep max weight. Then I'm going to have to rest maybe up to 3 minutes before I can do another effective set. If I'm doing higher repetitions, lighter weight, I might need far less rest. So the first part of the answer to this question has to do with what type of training are you already doing, because it depends. The best active rest option for you will be different depending on what you're looking to accomplish. So if you are doing heavy strength training or hypertrophy training, definitely make use of that active rest time to work smaller muscle groups that are not going to fatigue you as much, that perhaps still need some attention. So for example, if I was going to be doing a heavy upper body day for my active rest, I wouldn't want to then do something that is also upper body. I would maybe want to move to a different muscle group and do something that is not going to require a whole lot of redirection of energy. So in other words, if I'm trying to do hypertrophy or heavy strength training, chest and triceps, chest press, push-ups, that kind of thing, then I wouldn't then do tricep extensions or chest flies as my active rest. I would go ahead and shift maybe down to my calves, do some calf raises. I wouldn't do something like a big movement, like a multi-joint movement like squats, because that would then fatigue me overall and make it difficult to go back to my heavy lifting, even though it was a different muscle group. Now, if you're not training something really specific or really heavy like that, working in the mid-range, you can superset big muscle groups. And this is a really efficient way to get a whole body workout done without wasting a lot of time. And that is usually my approach for most people. Most people who have, they're not trying to necessarily compete for powerlifting. They're not necessarily trying to compete for bodybuilding. They just want a somewhat toned or semi-muscular physique, maybe some fat loss, some muscle gain, general health reasons. Then yeah, you can superset those big muscle groups and have your active rest be another big muscle group. Like, if you're doing upper body and then legs, supersetting those two back and forth, that's fabulous. But understand that if you really need to take your chest fully to fatigue, or if you're on a strict program that says, oh, today you're lifting 3 sets, and on the 3rd set you're lifting 95% of your 1 rep max or something really intense, you're not going to want to wear out your body in general with big movements for other body parts. So that's one way to look at it for strength and hypertrophy. And for toning or building, is you would look at doing a different muscle group than your primary muscle group in between, and perhaps doing a muscle group that is much smaller. Like if I was working legs, for example, and I didn't want to detract anything from the legs, I might work wrist curls or grip strength as my active rest option. Now, you might have cardio goals too, in which case cardio can be a great active rest option, where you're maybe skipping rope or jogging in place or doing something like that in between your strength training sets. But here again, cardio can be very fatiguing, just in general in the lungs and everything. So if you have to do a maximum performance type lift within your program, if you are lifting very, very heavy, close to your max weight, or you're going fully to failure on some of your sets, as you would with certain cycles of training for a heavy powerlifting program or a bodybuilding program. You're going to want to be conservative with your active rest with cardio, such that you're not overexerting yourself and just completely wearing yourself out where you have nothing left, no oxygen left to give to your primary lift. So you can kind of balance it out that way, is what your priorities are. Strength training, exercise, workouts, it's a lot like baking a cake. Is there any one right way to bake a cake? No, there's thousands of recipes, and each chef is going to have their own ideas about what cake tastes best. But as you're looking at the various ingredients for your strength training and for your active rest, think about what your personal priorities are. Do you want to work cardio for general health benefits, or for the metabolism, that kind of thing? Then you might want to splice that in as your active rest. Or maybe you're active resting from higher intensity cardio. We do this in the cardio classes where I coach online and at the Nerd Gym as well, where we will do high intensity for like a minute and then 30 seconds active rest, where it's just like easy stepping. We're not just stopping moving, we're keeping the body moving gently during the active rest. So you want higher intensity, lower intensity, with the focus not being too drawn away from the primary activity that you're doing. So there's no one best answer to this question. It depends on what your personal goals are. But to recap, if you're doing heavy strength training or heavy bodybuilding, make sure that your active rest option works a different, smaller muscle group, maybe a single joint movement, not a multi-joint movement. In other words, a tricep extension, a wrist curl, a bicep curl, a calf raise, a leg extension. Those are all single joint movements. Big multi-joint movements would be like a squat or a push or a pull. Those things you want to avoid as your active rest if you're in the situation where you're trying to give your primary focus to a big primary lift that you don't want to take away from. Switch muscle groups and make sure it's a smaller single joint movement instead of a multi-joint movement. If your goal is getting as much work in as efficiently as possible, stack as many whole body multi-joint movements as you can and superset them. Do push-ups and then squats and then more push-ups and then more squats. And then you have a whole bunch of your body done all at once. And then you can do your rows followed by deadlifts and rows followed by deadlifts, and bam, you're done just like that. You got to push, a pull, a squat, a hinge. So that's another approach. And then if you want better cardio, consider using cardio as your active rest option in between your sets. Just don't wear out those lungs too much where you feel like you can't breathe during your actual set, because breathing is so important during your actual weightlifting. So hopefully that helped you sort some things out. If you have more questions, go ahead and drop them below in the questions, the comments, and I will see you next time. If you want to get more coaching with me, you can go to www.thenerdgym.com. We do online live Zoom classes as well as meal plans and other assistance with your at-home workout. All right, see you next time. Bye.